Hi everyone, we're gonna get this going. Let me make sure we're good to go on YouTube, and then we'll get started. Okay, beautiful. Here, here. Great. All right, think we're good to go. Beautiful. Alrighty. Let me go ahead and tag some folks. They want to come in and watch. All right, beautiful. There's my chat. Get it pulled up and my notes. Okay. I was gonna do this all from my fancy camera and stream in YouTube and Facebook at the same time, but Facebook is having my Facebook group is having a meltdown right now and it won't let me post anything or do anything in there, so we're gonna do Facebook group on my phone and YouTube on my camera. And if you want to watch the fancier version, you can watch it on YouTube. But we're gonna go ahead and get started. I will say, I told y'all this is like my little mini birthday bash, and I did make myself an Aperol Spritz. That's my favorite drink. And I try to do live streams in the evening on the East Coast, so it is 1:30 in the afternoon here. But Aperol Spritz is a day drink, so we're just going with it. If you've never had one before, it's Prosecco or Champagne, Aperol, which is like a bitter liqueur, and then like club soda or some type of soda water to make it spritzy, and it's delicious. It's not too sweet. It's perfect. So I definitely recommend this drink if you have never. I should have put something about alcohol in this 27 before 27. Like, one thing I learned, like, stick to clear or stick to dark once you start, but I didn't put anything about booze in this list. And it's a very good life lesson to have is learn how to drink your drinks and don't mix your liquor. All right. Beautiful. We're streaming here. Make sure everything's good to go, and I'm going to jump right in. Welcome, everyone. If you have questions, drop them in the chat. Beautiful. Okay. All right. Let me check one more thing and then we're going to get started, I promise. By the way, this has been like a tech nightmare today. I've been trying to figure this out for like 3 hours why Facebook like hates me today or why it's not working, and I really don't know. So we're just going to get right into it. If this posts, it'll post, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. I'm not that worried about it. I actually don't think this is working. Oh boy. Okay. Anyway, forget the rest. Let's just do YouTube. Okay. So sorry about all of that. Let's get right into it. So, this is my 27 things I learned in 27 years list. I've been thinking about this list for the past 2 months and just wanted to put some things in here. And there will be animals, there will be dogs, there will be chickens because I live in Hawaii and that just is what it is. So if you can hear that, I do apologize. I wanted to put a lot of things about what I've learned in life and what I've learned in business in this list, and I want to share it with you. I'll start by saying these are the life lessons that have worked for me. This is my opinion. If it does not align with you, don't do it. Take with it what you want. Take what feels an alignment to you and leave the rest. This is just my own personal list of things I've learned by this age. And I turned 27 on Friday, and it's been a great few days so far. So I'll start with number 1 is learn what your physical home is and your emotional home and how to keep them sacred. Okay? And you might be like, what the hell are you talking about? What is a physical home and an emotional home? So your physical and emotional home, I heard about this for the first time from Tony Robbins, and I heard him talk about your emotional home. I've never really had anyone that I've heard talk about their physical home. So I know what both of mine are, and they are what I always come back to when I need and want to feel grounded. So my physical home is yoga. It's where I can always come back to my body, feel grounded, feel centered. No matter what's going on in my life, I feel like I can rest there on my mat. And I keep it very sacred, and I try to keep it in my schedule at least once a week. The thing about this physical home and emotional home is you want to be connecting with that minimum once a week. You want to have a practice around it so that way you always have a way to feel grounded in the midst of any chaos you might be going through, because your physical home and your emotional home should be where you feel the most safe in your own body, in your own mind. So that for me is yoga. It's the most non-judgmental place I can be. It is calming, it's healing, it's revigorating. It's just been such a huge part of my life. I've had a yoga practice for probably 6 years now, and it's just been amazing for me. I do hot yoga now, so it's not only like a really good like mind, body, soul exercise, but I do like, it's really good for my lymphatic system, and I sweat, and it's just great. I feel like a new person when I come out of yoga. So that for me is my physical home. Your physical home could be anything. It could be, I have some examples here. It could be like a spot where you can go and you can sit and be surrounded by, I don't know, something maybe you grew up with, or it reminds you of something you grew up with or somewhere. It could be just meditation. Maybe you being in your own body meditating is your physical home. It could be some sort of activity like surfing, or some sort of physical activity that really connects you and lets you be present in your body. My emotional home it took me a while to figure out what exactly this was for me, and it is my morning pages ritual, or my morning pages practice. So morning pages comes from the Artist Way, and it is 3 pages of stream of consciousness writing where you are just writing out, like it's like a brain dump in your brain. It's like getting out all your anxieties, worries, thoughts, and feelings on the page before you start your day. And the reason I really love morning pages is because it helps me figure out how I'm feeling before, I open this and I figure out how the entire world is feeling. So it is my safe space. It is how I connect with myself, and it's the thing I can always come back to when I've fallen out of routine a little bit. That's my first step back in my routine, is my morning pages. Just getting at my desk, getting on the page in the morning, and getting all of that out of my brain. For me, this also is certain records. Those dogs are so loud. So I grew up listening to a lot of music with my dad, and there's certain artists and certain albums that are just kind of like in my bones at this point. I don't even know how else to describe it. It's just like a part of my DNA. It's a part of who I am. I can hear a song or a record and I'm right back in the truck with my dad, like listening to the music, and it's just really special. It makes me feel like I'm home when I put it on. It makes me feel like my dad is with me, even if, he's 12 hours away. And my dad is such a huge part of my life. And so there's certain records that do that for me too, that can immediately ground me, make me feel calm. It's almost like it feels like a blanket. So that might be an option, an idea for you while you're trying to figuring out what your emotional home is. It could also be like a space. It could be like maybe your art studio is your emotional home, and it's more of how you feel when you're in that space than actually being in that space. It could be the woods. Maybe you just go to the woods, you just go on a hike to connect to your own emotional home. Maybe it's a certain trail in the woods. But either way, whatever your physical home and your emotional home is, I strongly encourage you to figure out what those are and create a weekly routine and incorporate those into that routine, just to help you feel centered and grounded throughout the week. That's number 1. Number 2 is move away from home at least once. And that one is kind of, you hear that a lot, but the reason I put it on this list is because I think moving away from home, moving into a new city or a new town or a new space where you don't know that many people, maybe you don't even know one person, it is the quickest way to realize how capable you really are. The first time I moved away from home, I had just turned 21 and I moved to New York City and I had an apartment in Ridgewood, Queens. I'd been to the city once and I knew one person there. But the funny thing was, like, I took her room and I ended up not seeing her the entire time I lived in New York. So I knew one person, but I didn't ever see her. So it was basically like I didn't know one person in this entire huge city. And I've never, like, it's the biggest amount of growth I've ever had in such a short amount of time. I mean, being in a place like a big city like that or anywhere, I'm telling you, anytime you go out of your hometown, even if it's not even that far, when you don't have someone around who could like be there at the drop of a hat, or you don't, maybe you are in a different time zone and you can't call your parents like as often as you'd like to or you used to, it's just shit like that that makes you realize how fucking capable you are, and it makes you realize it very, very quickly. After I moved away from home and I lived in New York City, I literally, after that, I feel like I can do anything. I feel like I can go anywhere, move anywhere, do anything. I don't really need anyone because I can do it myself. Like, I proved that to myself in that season of life. So now the entire rest of my life, I haven't questioned myself. I haven't questioned my own capabilities. I've never thought I couldn't do something just because I was a woman or because I was young, too old, too whatever. It didn't really cross my mind after that because moving to New York was so hard for me. It was totally my dark night of the soul. It was like post breakup. And I left the music industry because I was really over it. And so I like ended the career I thought I was going to have, ended the relationship with a guy I thought I was going to get married to, moved to this new city where I didn't know a soul, and I grew up in the South. So New York City was like completely different for me. It was like a completely different world. So the coolest thing about moving to a city is you get to decide who you want to be. It's a completely clean slate. You don't have any preconceived opinions attached to you like you would if you stayed in your hometown, like with people you grew up around or your family. Everyone has an opinion of you just by default because they know you. And when you go to a brand new place, it's a fresh slate. No one has an opinion of you yet. You get to write your own story and you get to decide who you're going to be moving forward. So that's why moving away from home is on my list. I highly recommend doing it, even if it's just for a short season, just to experience that part and untap that part of yourself that maybe you didn't know was there. Moving on to number 3. It goes really nicely into number 3, which is learn to love being by yourself. So obviously I got really experienced with this in New York City because I didn't know anybody. New York City is actually a great place to be completely alone because there's a lot of people there, there's a lot of ways to meet people, there's lots of things to do, and there's a lot of people there who are, a party of one. They're sitting in a cafe by themselves or they're going out to eat by themselves. It's not very odd to see, a young female out to dinner by herself or someone out to dinner by themselves. It's very much a place that harbors a lot of people who are by themselves. Anyway, not that I'm like, you should move to New York City. You should move wherever you want. But why I put learn to love being by yourself on here is because if you can learn to love being by yourself and you learn to really love and enjoy your own company and you create the space that you create your own home no matter where you are the safest place in the world for you. And an example of that is I had my appendix taken out, was it last year? Yeah, last year. And I've developed this like love of being alone, and I feel very safe alone by myself years ago. So I came out of the hospital bed, or like came out of surgery, and they put me in a room with someone else, and my anxiety was just spiking because I was like, I just came out of surgery, I was coming out from anesthesia, and the anxiety of having like a room with another person in it, nurses coming in and out, I was just like, I just need to get by myself and then I'll feel safe. I just need to get by myself and then I feel safe. And eventually I did get put in another room, and then my entire nervous system regulated because I've had to be in a lot of situations where I did have to regulate my own nervous system. I had to make myself feel safe. I had to make myself feel happy. No outside people or resources to do that. It became a practice of mine to really learn how to do that on my own. And I got to the point when I was single where I just felt relieved. Like I felt really relieved just that I was, I didn't have to like report to anyone. I didn't have to do anything that I didn't want to do. And I was single for quite a while, and I really, really enjoyed it. I had a great time. I had a lot of friends. I did things by myself. I would take myself on dates and entertain myself, and it was just great. And then, with that came traveling alone, and traveling alone is, I think, the best gift you can ever give yourself, because you can do whatever the fuck you want at any time. One of my things is like I'll hunt for the perfect restaurant with the perfect vibe, the perfect menu. Like if I'm only in Paris one night, I will walk for 2 hours to find the perfect place to eat. And like I know probably 100% of people I would travel with would hate that, and they would hate me for asking them to do that. But when I'm traveling alone, I can do whatever I want. So if I want to walk for 2 hours to find the perfect cafe, that's what I'll do. If I want to go to a museum, that's what I'll do. Whatever it is when you're traveling by yourself, it's so special. It's such a special time, and you're very open when you're traveling by yourself. You're kind of more open to meet people because you are alone, and traveling alone is just amazing. I recommend it to anyone. It's one of my favorite things to do. I would say 70% of my travels have actually been alone, not with other people. And I look back on all of them extremely fondly. So if you haven't learned to love being by yourself, I would recommend with you starting with taking yourself on dates or artist dates or things to inspire you. I understand, because I used to feel this way too before I did this, but the anxiety of maybe going to a movie by yourself and people thinking you're weird, or like going out to dinner by yourself or sitting at the bar, whatever it might be. Just create safe spaces for you to do things you enjoy. Just start by doing things you like. Start by going to a place and reading your favorite book. Start by going to a restaurant that you know has your favorite meal. Start by going to your favorite museum. Start by going to your favorite park. And just start developing that relationship with you to cultivate that safety in yourself. And one of the biggest reasons I do recommend this is because a lot of times I see people stay in relationships that aren't healthy, or that really just they don't even want to be in anymore, but they feel like it's better than being alone. So if you establish this with yourself, that you love being alone, you'll never be tempted to stay in something that isn't fun for you anymore or isn't good for you anymore, because you already know what it feels like to be happy on your own. So anyway, there's that. That's number 3. Number 4, very simple. Get AAA. Just get it. Like, going back to moving away from your hometown, if you're in a new place and you don't have a dad to call, you don't have a brother or a friend, or you don't ever have to worry about being stuck on the side of the road with like no one to call, get AAA. If you're in the States, it's literally $100 a month, and the peace of mind is worth thousands. So it's just another way to really take care of yourself, make sure you're good, and that if you do want to go on an adventure, you want to move to a new place, like that doesn't even have to cross your mind. Just get AAA and you're good. It's just a no-brainer. Number 5, learn how to work for what you want. I'm going to read what I wrote on this. I want to start by saying, as a recovering workaholic, I do not encourage burnout, running yourself ragged, or putting your work before your health. In fact, now I do help people to not do these things, because I used to do these things. What I do encourage is pushing yourself to limits for the life you want to have, going way past your comfort zone to prove to yourself that you can do anything. So, as a recovering workaholic, I would not recommend to anyone, hey, you should run yourself ragged and work 3 jobs because that's what it takes to do what you want to do. No, it might at some point, but I'm not recommending that. What I'm recommending is there are seasons of life where you have opportunities to push yourself. You have the opportunity to get out of your comfort zone, to do something that really lights you on fire, that really excites you, that's part of your bigger life vision. And those seasons, you may not get a lot of sleep. And that's how it was when I lived in New York. I had 3 jobs. and I never slept. But I was 22. Okay, so I could hang at the time. I was in acting school. I was in like dance classes. I made time for socializing and going to social events to meet people. I went to museums. I went to plays. I went to weekly workshops, and I was just honing in on my craft all the time. Would I do this today at 27? I don't know. I don't know if I could. But at the time, I was so high on life and I was so high on what I was doing, and I was like, all my dreams were coming true, that it was just a season, and I was kind of happy to do it. I pushed myself out of my comfort zone. Like, I don't even know how I did all that shit with 3 jobs, but New York was expensive, and I had to do what I had to do. So when you have an opportunity, and what I'm saying is, like, I worked 3 jobs because that was what was getting me into my classes. That's how I was being able to afford to live in the city. That's how I was able to afford to keep honing in on my craft. I'm not saying work uncomfortably for somebody else. That is the opposite of what I'm saying. I'm saying put all your eggs in your own fucking basket and take a risk on you. Like, grind for you. Work hard for future you to have the life that you want. Don't work that hard for anybody else. Just don't. You shouldn't be like losing sleep and running yourself ragged for some random ass job. But if you want to do it for you, for your own dreams and for your future self, just do it. There's like gonna be seasons of life, and it's not forever. I sleep a lot now. I sleep great. Did I sleep a lot when I was 22? No, I didn't. But I gained a lot of knowledge, and I gained a lot of experience, and I don't think you'll ever regret it. I would never regret it. I don't think you're ever going to regret a season where you just went all in on your own dream. So I would definitely recommend learn how to work for what you want. Number 6 is fun. Learn how to get dirty. Okay, so for me, this is like a part of life. I grew up on a horse farm. I've been shoveling horse shit since I was like 7 years old, maybe even younger. And I had my hands in the dirt constantly, looking for worms to go fishing, helping my nanny in the garden, like anything it might be. I was in the dirt a lot as a kid. And I grew up in that environment. So there was never any like context of like girls shouldn't get as dirty as boys or anything like that. Like, we were just on our farm doing what we were doing, having a great time. The reason I put this on this list, because it's kind of random, when you know how to get dirty, when you commit to getting your hands in the dirt, whatever it might be, maybe it's a little manual physical labor outside, you're grounding yourself. There's electromagnetic currents in the earth, in the soil, that we need as humans. And the past 100 years have been the first time in history where we haven't been in the dirt regularly, building, planting, and working. This is probably the first time ever. Oh, that's not true. The Europeans, maybe in the past 300 years. All before then, humans were in the dirt constantly, okay? That's where we got our food. That's where we built our life, was in the dirt. We need to get our feet on the soil. We need to get our feet on the earth. Just go outside. If you don't use Roundup, if you're in a place where you think they're spraying chemicals, you don't want to have your bare feet on that soil. But if you're in a place where you can put your feet on unbothered soil, you should be doing that often. It's really good for you. It's great for your brain, your body, your nervous system, everything. And why I did put this on this is not just about grounding, but if you're out there and you're a lady who you're not a fan of camping, you're not a fan of getting in the dirt, you're not a fan of getting dirty, I understand. I'm not saying you have to change your whole life and go out and learn how to be a tomboy all of a sudden. But I'll just tell you from personal experience, when you learn how to do hard labor jobs, so like when you are in a phase of life where you're doing a lot of physical labor and you're coming home and you're sweaty and that's a really good feeling to come home from like a day of like physical labor, not just like an hour at the gym, but like you were sweating, you were getting your work on, your hands, you got calluses on your hands, whatever that might be. For me, it amounts to way more than any form of self-care I've ever done. There's no amount of facials, massages, bubble baths, anything that I can leave feeling as magical, as good, as grounded as I do after like a day of working outside in the dirt. I just don't know of anything that could compare to that. You feel incredible. You can feel so confident out of, doing something that maybe you were told your whole life like was a man's job, or that you weren't strong enough to do on your own, or that's not meant for women, whatever it might be. I think personally that the simple truth of knowing you don't need a man to do a man's job will prevent you from ever feeling like you need to keep one around that you don't like. Doing things that we were constantly told as women that, we couldn't do, and then saying like, well, yeah, fuck yeah, I did it. I just came in and, you're strong, sweating. It's just a really great confidence boost, and I recommend it to every woman to have some sort of labor of love, some sort of routine that does get you like physical, sweating and in the dirt. It's just, I don't know. I think it's better than any self-care you could ever pay for. All right, moving on. This one's fun. Learn how to shop. So I used to shop a lot. When I was 18, I was making more than a teacher at my waitressing job. So when I was 18, I was making more money than I even knew what to do with, more than most people I knew. I worked at the busiest restaurant in Nashville and got really lucky to get on the wait staff, and I made really good money at 18. So I used to just blow it on shopping. I just bought whatever I want, whenever I want. I shopped at TJ Maxx, fucking Target, Ross, everywhere, and just did, whatever I wanted, basically. And since then, I've learned how to shop to build a wardrobe that actually lasts, that doesn't make me spend all my money. And I live in Hawaii now, and I really don't care that much about shopping. I buy a few pieces a year, but when I do buy a few pieces a year, I like to invest in good quality clothing. So here's what I do. Quality over quantity, right? So stop shopping at Ross and TJ Maxx and all that stuff. And it's going to shrink. It's going to deteriorate. Just can we all just stop shopping at these places? You might think, well, I don't want to buy quality clothes all the time because jeans are $100, a top might be $100. So this is what I do. I have sinking funds for shopping. And granted, if I didn't live in Hawaii, I'd probably do this more, but I generally don't buy a lot of clothes anymore. But if I was living in a place where maybe I needed a certain wardrobe for work, this is what I would do. So this is what I used to do. So have a wish list of items that you would love or that you'd like a winter coat, a pair of jeans, anything that might just be too expensive to just justify buying in this moment. Have like a wish list set aside for the items you want to have, because it's going to keep you from buying other things that you see just to get instant gratification that would add up to that in a month's time. Like let's say you wanted a coat that was $200 and you put it on your wish list, and if you didn't, you would have spent $200 at TJ Maxx anyway over the course of a month. So have your wish list of the items you really have been looking at and you want to have. And then I have this app called Capital, and I have sinking funds on there for different things, and it can draw $5 out of my account, $10 out of my account, $15 a week, a month, whatever. And those accounts just build up until I meet my goal of $100, $200, and then you can go out and buy the thing you want guilt-free. Another thing I do is I have a sinking fund called For a Rainy Day. Because we all know, we've all been in like that one thrift store or that one store, and you see a piece and it's your favorite color and it fits you perfectly, but it's a little outside of your budget, and we all know when you go back to the store, it's not going to be there. So I like to have a sinking fund called For a Rainy Day, and I just have the money come out of my account, $5 a week, something like that, go to that account, and then when you see that beautiful key piece, it could be a piece of furniture, it could be an antique, it could, whatever it might be, so you don't have to have buyer's remorse when you splurged on something day of. You already have a little bit put aside for that. So you can buy that beautiful key piece to your wardrobe that maybe you didn't know you were looking for out of your sinking fund. It's already right there. You don't have to feel guilty about it. It's perfect. So this is how I shop now. I shop a couple times a year now. So have your sinking funds and get quality over quantity to build a wardrobe with fabrics that are actually good for you. 100% cotton, 100% linen. Polyester is gross, okay? Investing in good fabric for yourself it's investing in your health, it's investing in your body. So I try to just buy like linen and cotton from now on. Okay. Number 8 is learn how to date. So I'm not a master at dating by any means. I've had some great dates. I've had some not so great dates. I haven't been on like 100 dates or anything. I'm not a master dater by any means. But I did learn, I dated in New York, I dated in Nashville, I guess in Europe technically, and I've had a lot of interesting experiences. And what I've learned being in my 20s is if the vibes weren't good on a first date, don't bother with a second. It's not going to get better. He's not going to get funnier. He's not going to get nicer. He's not going to be any less weird, or she. Just don't waste your time on a second date if you didn't like him on the first. You can't trick yourself. Well, you can. You actually can trick yourself into liking someone, but what's the point? If you get weird vibes on a first date, just don't bother with your time on a second one. Get very clear about what you want in a partner and don't compromise on it. Spend your time working on yourself instead of looking for a partner. Work on yourself, growing as a person. Certain people are placed in our lives for a certain reason, and they will come. And you don't have to worry about when they will come. They will come. Don't chase. Don't ever chase anyone that's not chasing you. It's never like a really good energy exchange on either end. Most people end up feeling not so good about the situation when there's chasing involved. And don't spend lots and lots of time looking for someone. Instead, spend that time working on you, developing your own relationship with you, developing your own life, developing your own everything. It's a much better use of your time than looking for someone to make you happy. Invest in making yourself happy, and then you'll find someone who's also happy, and then you guys can be happy together. If you're lonely, and I get it, because when I was living in New York, I was really lonely. I was craving, companionship. And I got that in dates because I had some really cool dates that I went on with people, and I got that in friendships. I never really had a boyfriend in New York, but I think if you're lonely, it's better to lean into that feeling and take that time and space to create art, make quality friendships, take yourself on dates, get to know yourself. I think it would be a disservice to you to spend your early adulthood or any part of your life hopping from mediocre relationship to mediocre relationship just because you're having a feeling of loneliness. I think loneliness can be channeled into a lot of other really great things. And that's just my opinion. So take with it what you will. That's kind of the route I took, and it worked out really well. And wait for that person who's the real deal. Number 9, learn how to have a clean space. I grew up in a house where, there's a lot of things, almost hoarder style, like lots of things weren't thrown away that much. So I grew up in a really cluttered space, and now I have to have a very, very clean space, or it's not very good for my mental health. I didn't really know how to keep a clean space till I was 23, 24. In New York, I always joke, I literally lived like a New York City rat. My room was gross. I didn't keep it up. I was never there. It didn't feel like home. And then once I got more settled in other spaces of life, when I wasn't in the city anymore, I realized how important it was to have a clean space. So one thing I've heard a lot that I really believe to be true is your outside space always is reflecting your inside space. So you want to keep your outside space clean, neat, organized, so you can feel like you have the room to be open, like you have the room to be creative, like you have, room for inspiration to come. Because if you're living in a cluttered space, your brain is just intaking unnecessary information all the time, and it's hard to feel creative and inspired when you are under a whole pile of clutter. So have a weekly routine just to clean and reset your space, and have a deep clean once a month. Dust is pretty much stagnant energy, so a lot of people don't prioritize dusting, but dusting makes you feel great. It avoids you having any allergies, sinus issues, things like that. And ever since I learned how to keep a clean space, I cannot stand living in a cluttered space. It affects my work, it affects my mental health, it affects everything. So especially if you work from home, keep your space neat. It's going to help you perform so much better in your business and in your life. And you'll be more open and excited to do things that are income generating when you don't have to worry about cleaning up all the time. So, this is so yummy. Number 10, learn how to have boundaries. Okay. You hear this all the time. This is something everyone needs to master, okay? Have boundaries with everyone, including yourself. Boundaries don't actually create space or distance. Boundaries create a safe space for you and the other party, or you and yourself. Having boundaries with your family members, you got to be doing that ASAP. If you don't have boundaries with your family members that you grew up with already, you need those ASAP. Just because, things are different when you're an adult. When I was 18, I moved out, I made my own money, I established a lot of boundaries with my family that they did not enjoy, and it was difficult, but my life would be extremely different now if I hadn't established those boundaries very early on in my adulthood. Learn to have boundaries with your clients if you are a business owner, because they help you and the client to thrive. If you have a clear, concise contract of expectations and limitations, then everyone knows their parameters. Everyone can feel happy. No one feels used. No one feels like they're giving more than they're getting, or vice versa. Contracts are very, very important, and boundaries are the most important thing in business. They keep your mental and physical well-being safe and happy. Having boundaries with yourself can look like, if there's a bar down the street where you met your ex and that was your first date. If it's triggering for you to go there, set a boundary on yourself that you're not allowed to go to that bar anymore. If there's another bar down the street that's just as good, just as fun, don't go to that bar anymore. It could be that if you go out and party with your friends on a Sunday night, on Monday, your whole week is going to get thrown off because you woke up hungover on a Monday. Have that boundary with yourself. Ray, I don't want you going out on Sunday nights anymore because, you're talking to yourself. Because it screws up our entire week. I've had to say this to myself before. So having boundaries on yourself makes you just in a great headspace, mental, physical, everything. It's good. And I'm not saying to punish yourself. I think that's horrible. You shouldn't be punishing yourself at all. It's not that. It's preventing situations from happening that are going to derail your progress. By just establishing, Sunday nights I don't do it. Tell your friends, hey, don't invite me on a Sunday. That's not my thing. I'm in bed by 9. And haha, hee hee, grandma, whatever. You can call me on a Friday. So, number 11, learn how to money. Okay? Most of us aren't taught how to be the most established financially literate human beings in our family dynamics, or however we grew up in school. Like, there's not a lot of financial education out there at all. So as soon as you are a working adult, 16, 17, 18 and beyond, get as many money resources as you can. Read every book, listen to every podcast. If you can spend your time in your early adulthood, or even later, it's never too late to start. If you can spend your time figuring out what to do to be not rich but wealthy, and sustaining yourself in a lifestyle that you actually want to have and you dream of, it'll be the best thing you ever do for yourself. Spend more time learning about money than you do about love, and you will be great. Spend more time dreaming about what you want your life to look like than your wedding, and you will have that life that you want to have. I grew up in the South where we were all just encouraged to, go get our MRS degree, get married, settle down, have some kids. There's no women in that part of the world who are being encouraged how to be wealthy or how to learn about money or anything like that. You've got to take that upon yourself to go out and learn these things. And back when I was first making money, even though I was making good money, 18, 19, 20, waitressing and bartending and things like that, I was so stuck in the starving artist mentality, I was still broke all the time. I was literally making more than most teachers, and I was still broke. Like, stupid broke, because I didn't know what to do with my money. I was super stuck in the starving artist mentality that I was never going to have enough, and it was really hard, and I didn't really start studying wealth and financial literacy until I was probably 24. So the entire first half of my adulthood, I was making more money than I did in the second half, but I didn't know what to do with it, so I was more broke, and I felt more broke. The hardest thing about money isn't actually making it. 90% of what people struggle with the most is reprogramming what we've learned about money. So make sure when you're studying, how to have your accounts, how to run a business, you're also studying subconscious thought patterns around money. There's a lot of good books. I love Jen Sincero's You're a Badass at Making Money, Think and Grow Rich, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Those are all really good books that help with the subconscious side of money. Okay? Number 12, learn how to do one or more of these 3 skills and you won't have to worry about money. We're still talking about money. Learn how to market, learn how to code, and or learn how to sell. If you do these things right now in your life, you will not have to worry about money. People are always going to need marketing. You're always going to need marketing for any business you start. If you can learn how to market now, you will always be able to make money. If you learn how to code, coding is not going anywhere. Yeah, there's AI and all that shit, but people are always going to need people who know how to code. If you learn how to code, you'll be fine. Learn how to sell. If you can learn how to sell, you'll learn how to sell anything, and you can create any product you want, any service you want, and you will know how to sell it, and you will always make money, or you will always be an asset to a team, a company, a person, if you're really good at selling, because people are always going to need things sold. So if you learn how to do 1, 2, or all 3 of those things, you will be well on your way. When there's anyone who comes to me and they just say, hey, I want to make money, I kind of want to do my own thing, where should I start? Pick one of those 3, whatever sounds the most fun to you, and start learning it. Develop a side hustle, develop a business, whatever it is you think you might enjoy the most. Oh, every time I get on live streams, I'm like hoarse from talking. Okay. Number 13, invest time in quality friendships. I'm going to start speeding these up a little bit because I feel like I'm taking a long time. Invest time in quality friendships. I have a habit of building family wherever I go. I can, be traveling in a country for 2 days and I'll make one of the best friends of my life that I'll stay in touch with forever. It's just something I've done for a long time. I'm a gatherer of humans, and that's just one of my archetypes. But if you invest time in quality friendships, it's never time wasted. And it's always better to have a small circle versus a big one. A small circle of people you trust and you love than a big circle of acquaintances. Number 14, host one holiday per year. And why I recommend this is because I started hosting Friendsgiving my first year in New York, and I've had 5 Friendsgivings now. And it's just kind of my thing. Everyone knows it's what I do, and I look forward to it every year. A lot of other people look forward to it every year. And why I recommend hosting one holiday a year is because it just makes you feel like you have a tribe. And what happens sometimes as adults, we get so busy and we're all focused on what we need to do and we don't see each other very much. But when you can have your one signature themed holiday or whatever it is and your whole tribe shows up, it's just the best feeling in the world, and it's a great way to get together. And if you and your community and your inner circle, you each take on a different holiday, it's extremely fun. Like, this could be a summer solstice picnic. It could be Halloween if that's your thing. It could be a Christmas party if that's your thing. Like, whatever you like, just decide, I'm going to do this once a year, and it's going to be a thing. It's going to be awesome. Go all in, invite all your friends, and then it's something for all of you to look forward to every year, and it's just the best. I highly recommend it. Number 15. This one might be a little controversial or touchy subject for some people, but number 15 is learn to love your parents where they are. I'll just start by saying I know this is extremely hard for some people, and I understand that certain relationships cannot be repaired. So if that's you, I'm not necessarily talking to you here. I'm more so talking to anyone who still has a desire to have a good relationship with their parents, even though maybe things are a little rocky right now. The only reason I feel like I have a little bit of room to talk about this is because when I was 22, we found out my dad had cancer, and I was his main caretaker in that season, and he is cancer-free now. And having to be in a position like that so young, like, I never pictured myself being in a circumstance where, your parent is in that situation. I thought I would be a lot older when anything like that were to happen. So when that happened to me so young, or not to me, but when I experienced that so young, it made me just kind of let bygones be bygones. Anything that I was holding on to from my childhood. And by the way, it doesn't matter how amazing your parents are. When we are young, we can't decipher logic from emotion. So you're going to have emotional wounds from your parents, even if they were the best parents in the world, just because at that age you didn't know how to intake that information. So regardless of how you feel about what has happened in the past, I decided at that age I was just going to forgive and forget. There's no point in holding on to grudges anymore, no point in harboring resentment. I realized how precious life was and how precious my parents' life was. And, you know, when we're a kid, we think our parents are superheroes and they're going to live forever. And once their mortality is challenged, it really puts some things into perspective, especially for me. So I made a conscious decision to not hold on to any resentment anymore and have a fresh slate or a clean slate with both of my parents and just try to enjoy our relationship dynamic as adults now. And, you know, obviously I still get triggered. Everyone still gets triggered because we grew up with these people. We live with these people. You're going to trigger each other just like you and your brother or sister do. You can't just turn that off. But I made a decision a long time ago. I just wasn't going to hold on to anything anymore that happened in the past. And, you know, just do the best of your ability. Sometimes the best of my ability is leaving a family function early. Sometimes it's not calling back for a few days. It's just me being intentional with the time I have left with my parents and trying to make that as beautiful and as amazing as possible. And I learned that really young. So I definitely recommend, if you're in a hard season with your folks right now, to just take a step back and reevaluate how you want to have the rest of their life and your life going forward with that relationship. Number 16 is develop a morning routine. And if you have been a part of my world for a while, you probably know I'm a morning routine freak. I used to have to wake up at 6 a.m. for my waitressing job every day. I never had a morning routine because even if I wanted one, I had to be out the door by 5:15. I decided once that job was done, once I was finished with that job, I was going to get up at 6 a.m. for myself. And that's what I've been doing ever since. I take that time in the morning for me. I try to do something for my mind, something for my body, and something for my soul every day. And for me, that can look like journaling, walking, maybe exercising. Something for my soul might look like doing something creative, going outside somewhere, maybe surfing. I just really love to have the intention of filling up my cup so I can be in a place of overflow for the rest of the day, because my job is serving others. And if you're a mom, you're serving your kids and your family. If you go to work, whatever you might do, most of us are in a position to serve others. So you want to fill your cup before you go out and you fill everybody else's cup. So I'm a huge fan of morning routines. Start small. It doesn't have to be elaborate. Just create a 20-minute morning routine for yourself to start. See how you feel, and you'll become addicted to it because it'll feel so good. Number 17, have a clear vision for your life, even if you don't know exactly what that is yet. This kind of goes hand in hand with my morning routine. I try to connect with my life vision by meditating, journaling, or having a manifestation practice, because why it's so important is if you don't know where you're going, how are you going to get there? It's pretty obvious, right? When I start working with my coaching clients, the very first thing we do is they write out their 5 to 10 year vision and then their 3-year vision, and we put it somewhere where I can see it, they can see it, and then we make their current goals directly correlating to that. Because what happens a lot of times is we make these goals for our lives and we don't feel motivated to complete them because it doesn't have anything to do with where we are actually trying to go. And why I try to have all my clients get really clear on what their life vision is because we automatically grow up and go out into the adult world with opinions attached to us of what maybe our parents think we should do for a living, or what our culture has, deemed appropriate for what we should do for our lives. And you may not, what your parents want you to do and what you want to do could be completely different things. And if you are going after a life that you don't actually want, you're living in alignment. You're living out of alignment. And when you get very clear about what your life vision actually is, and you start making goals for where you actually want to be in 10 years, then you are living in alignment and everything starts to flow. You won't have as much resistance. you'll be more excited, you'll be more energized, you'll be more motivated because you're actually in alignment with where you want to go. So even if you don't know exactly what you want your life to look like in 5 to 10 years, start with something just to get you on the trajectory of where you know you'd like to be, not other people. Number 18, learn how to work to live and not live to work. This was something for me that was very difficult to learn because I come from a very blue-collar family where work was the biggest priority, everything else came second. Health came second, family came second, hobbies, quality time, everything came second to work. And they worked to live, they did not live to work. And I watched my family members come home from work in pain, and I developed the mental, subconscious belief that if, I didn't come home from work and I wasn't exhausted or I wasn't in pain, then I didn't work hard enough, or I didn't actually earn the money I made because I wasn't in pain. So really fucked up. And I had to undo that subconscious programming. I used to have a rheumatoid arthritis because I guess I still technically do. I tested positive for it in my DNA because it runs in my family. It's genetic, but through developing new lifestyle habits, and I'm going to talk about this in a second too, but developing new lifestyle habits, not, forcing myself to live this way, to work this way, I was able to heal myself. And now I prioritize living before work. Like my schedule is prioritizing my health, my surfing, my yoga, things that make me happy, quality time with loved ones. I plan my schedule in my current life around the life I want to live. So I'm working to live and not living to work. It's a huge mindset shift if you grew up in a similar situation to me, and it's not something that you grew up seeing. So spend your time figuring out how you want to go about living your life, working for that instead of living to work. 19 is invest in yourself. I've been investing in myself since I was 16, paying for vocal coaches, and I started waitressing, and I started paying producers, songwriting classes, workshops, band members, constantly investing in my art, my creativity. And then in New York, I started investing in acting, dancing, all sorts of stuff. And then back when I was around 23, I invested in my first life coaching program to get certified in coaching. And now I've invested in business coaches and things like that. So I've been investing a long, long time, and I think it's the best money ever spent. You can always take a risk on you. Put your money where your mouth is, and magic will happen every single time. Every time I've taken a leap and taken a big financial risk, it always comes back to me faster than I expected and tenfold, because I think the universe conspires to help us and rewards us for taking leaps of faith on ourselves. So if you're going to invest in anything, invest in yourself, because it'll never be money wasted. Number 20, learn how to ask for help. I didn't know how to ask for help until about 2 years ago. I never asked for help before then. And, it's something that if we aren't taught how to ask for help, it doesn't even come across, the thought doesn't come across in our brain to ask for help. So it's a practice. Start asking for help for small things. Hey, do you mind doing this for me? Or maybe it's your partner. Hey, do you mind cutting the vegetables so that way I can just throw them on? You don't have to ask them to make you a whole dinner, but hey, can you marinate the steak and I'll throw it on when I get home? Hey, do you mind taking the trash out, babe? I'll do this if you can take the trash out. Just starting small with learning how to ask for help with small things, and then eventually maybe you'll be able to ask for help for big things and it won't be a big deal. And you want to be in a cohesive relationships, friendships, and partnerships in your life where you both feel comfortable asking for help. 21, learn how to be in your masculine and your feminine energy. For those of you who are a little unfamiliar about what I might be talking about, this doesn't have anything to do with gender or male or female. Masculine and feminine energy is the balance of the energy in our soul. So it's like yin and yang, or yin and yang, depending on how you study it. I've had seasons fully in my masculine and fully in my feminine, and being fully in my masculine for me looked a lot like, living in New York or traveling Europe and having to look really tough and be very on guard, very Don't fuck with me because, you're walking home by yourself and you have to be a little bit more on top of things, a little bit more in your masculine. Working a lot, grinding, doing manual labor, pushing myself outside of my comfort zone, building furniture in my new apartment by myself. Basically, just not having any outside support and having to do everything on my own. I took care of myself and that was it. Living in my feminine, I didn't really experience this very much because, I did grow up on a horse farm and waitressing, hard jobs. And the first time I really felt truly in my feminine was when I moved to Hawaii when I was 24. And ironically enough, the most feminine I ever felt was when I worked on a cattle ranch. It was the first time in my life I didn't have like a job I had to drive to and like be super mentally present for. So my days looked like, slow days on the farm, just doing what needed to be done, bottle feeding baby animals, being in nature every day, babysitting kids, laying in the sun, coaching clients intuitively, listening, being still. I felt the most in my feminine, and how I described it to people back then was I felt like close to Mother Earth, and that's what made me feel in my feminine. It wasn't like me getting my nails done and getting my hair done. It was the exact opposite. It was me being connected to the earth, being connected to nature, and just the birth and the death and everything that you do see when you're on a farm. That's when I felt the most in my feminine. And now now that I've experienced both fully, I'm constantly striving for that balance of being in my masculine and being in my feminine. Being in my feminine, taking the time to be creative, taking the time to listen to my spirit, taking the time to meditate. This helps me to do my job with my clients because I can create a safe space, and a lot of my coaching is intuitive. But there are certain things running a business comes with where I do have to be in my masculine. So I'm constantly searching for that harmonized balance between the two. But one reason I recommend this, especially if you are young and you're in your 20s, is because if you fully live in your masculine and then you fully live in your feminine, then you have experienced both sides. And you don't have to wonder about what was I really capable of, or what could my life looked like if I actually committed to this, or it's very abstract and it's different for everybody what your masculine and your feminine energy looks like. But I do find that, the couples that I talk to, and me being in a couple myself with my boyfriend, we both did this in our 20s, and we've had a much easier time transitioning into being in a harmonized relationship. Because if a woman's in her feminine a lot, if a woman's in her masculine all the time and she's been on her own since she was 18 and she's never been with a man that, is fully in his masculine, she's going to have a hard time being in her feminine around a new man. So it develops a lot of tension in relationships if you can't seem to connect with each other's masculine and feminine energies. There's a lot of books and ways you can study this, and I'm still very much studying it as well, but I definitely recommend going all in on both sides when you are young. Number 22, seek out different walks of life other than your own. So whether you are making lifelong friends or just chatting with someone at a bar, intentionally seek out others who live a completely different life from you. This is how you learn. This is how you grow. I've been traveling solo for a long time, and I try to make one new friend in every country I go to, learning about them and how they live their life and how they were raised, and it's just the most amazing thing to me. I grew up in a small town in the South, very small, very white, very sheltered. And I love learning about new cultures. I love people. I love stories about family. New York is an absolute melting pot, and I was surrounded by languages I'd never even heard of in my life. Queens, New York, is home to more languages in one, 100-mile radius than any place in the world. So that's where I live, was Queens. Making friends from so many different cultures has humbled me, inspired me, educated me, and has made my life extremely, extremely just incredible in abundance. I just can't recommend enough being intentional and seeking out other walks of life other than your own and making friends and just being a part of the world that way. Number 23 is learn what the law of attraction is and how to use it. So I started studying the law of attraction when I was around 23, and I've got a brain that a lot of things that don't make sense to other people make logical sense to me, things that aren't considered logical, and things that are logical to other people don't always make a lot of sense to me. And I don't know why that is, but law of attraction always seemed like something that was extremely logical to me. And to put it simply, it's you attract what you are, and you attract your own thoughts, feelings, and belief. I've read by Sonia Choquette, I think is her name. The subconscious mind is a drive-through, and whatever you tell it, it gives you tenfold. So learning to master the law of attraction is learning to master your own thoughts and beliefs about yourself, about money, about humanity, about everything. I have a few manifestation practices that I implement into my morning routine to do that and to kind of reprogram my subconscious beliefs. If you would like a copy of my morning manifestation guide, you can just DM me the word manifest and I'll send it to you. Number 24. And then, we're almost at an hour. Prioritize getting sleep. I didn't do this until I was like 25. I was living on the cattle ranch here in Hawaii, and I got the best sleep of my life for the first time. It was like the first time in my life I got more than 6 hours a night. From entire 18 to 25, I got probably 6 hours of sleep a night. I never got 8. And then when I started finally getting 8 hours of sleep a night, I was like, wow, this is what it feels like to be well slept. And ever since, I just never went back. I love a good full 8 hours. I prioritize, dialing into my circadian rhythm. If you watch the sunrise in the morning with, blind eyes, like not with sunglasses or after you've looked at your phone, it signals to the melatonin in your brain to shut off, so that way you have more energy, you naturally wake up. And when you watch the sun set, it signals to your brain to turn the melatonin on, so you get sleepy. So I really made it a priority after this to start really paying attention to my circadian rhythm, not looking at any blue light after the sun has gone down or before the sun has gone up, because blue light and phones and TVs and everything really, really affect your sleep and affect us so negatively. Again, it's the first time in the past 100 years that we've ever dealt with this as humans. It is unnatural. So try to prioritize getting good sleep and blocking out blue light when it's not supposed to be there. Number 25. We're almost done. 25. Practice what getting healthy looks like for you. So as I mentioned a little bit earlier, I was diagnosed with pretty much an autoinflammatory disease when I was 18, 19. I was in a lot of pain even back then. And I thought I was just going to have to live with this forever because it was genetic, and I'm watching the women in my family live with this condition. But I also grew up in the South. I grew up eating fried chicken. I knew nothing about nutrition. I really didn't know, y'all, that how you feel directly correlates with what you eat. I had no idea until someone explained it to me. I ended up in the hospital 6 times by 26. The last time, I guess I was 25, my appendix ruptured, and I decided, enough was enough. I didn't want to end up in the hospital a 7th time to finally turn things around. So I cleaned up a lot. I cleaned up my diet and my nutrition. I committed to eating whole foods. Now I'm trying to commit to 90% local whole foods because it's much easier to know what's on your food, if it was sprayed with anything, how the animals were raised, when it is local, when you know where it's coming from. I committed to exercising almost every single day. I try to aim for every single day something, a walk, a swim, and a workout, a surf, anything. Because when I moved to Hawaii and I finally shifted my patterns, I was out of pain for the first time in my entire adult life. And I never thought that was possible for me, ever. It never even crossed my mind that I was going to live a life that was pain-free, because that's all I knew was you were going to have this pain. So if you are young or you're not young and you have any sort of condition, if any sort of chronic pain, please change your nutrition and change your routines before you just decide this is going to be your life forever. Before you commit to taking a lot of drugs or changing and doing all these crazy surgeries, anything like that, start with your food and your exercise first, and then reevaluate how you feel. I know a lot of you have probably already done this. I'm probably not talking to you. I'm just talking to you if you were like me and really thought this was never going to happen for you. Clean up your diet and exercise, committing to exercise first, and then reevaluate in a year. Just try it for 1 year, and you will, at least if you're not out of pain and completely pain-free, you will feel a million times better. 26, turn at least one passion into profit. The best thing you could ever do for yourself is prove to yourself that you can be profitable off of your passion. You don't have to turn every hobby into a money-making activity. It's not all about money. It's simply the fact that you can make a living doing what you love every day and proving that to yourself, because we are not trained to believe that at all. And in fact, we are taught to believe the opposite. We're taught that if we're creative, if we're an artist, if we're an entrepreneur, things are going to be hard. You may not make it. It's not as hard as you think. Trust me, you just have to be 100% committed. And if you don't know where to start with your passion, like how the hell am I going to be profitable off my passion? Start with picking whichever one of your passions you are the most passionate about, something that you could talk about every single day, all day, every day, and start making content around that passion every single day. Because what's going to happen is you are going to start making content about what you're passionate about, and you're naturally going to attract other people who are also passionate about that. That will be your audience. Get to know them, figuring out what they want, what they need, what they're struggling with, and then develop a product or a service that's going to help them with that struggle, and that's how you will make money off of that passion. If you were an artist, it might be a little bit different. If this is something you would like a customized plan for, feel free to send me a message. I give, a certain amount of free sessions away per month and would be happy to help you develop a custom plan how to do this. But whatever it is you decide, even if it's a side hustle or it's just this little thing on the side that you do, or you just sell your work at a farmer's market once a week, making a little bit of money off of what you're passionate about starts to open your brain to new opportunities and new ways of thinking that could completely change the course of your life. So if you do anything, turn one passion into profit. And 27, the last thing, never stop learning, obviously. After all of these things I've learned, I am always going to prioritize learning. It's never too late to learn a new skill. It's never late to learn a new craft, to learn something new. If you want to take a cooking class, go take it. If you think it's too late to learn how to watercolor paint, it's not. Go learn. Go take a class. You want to learn how to play piano at 60? What a perfect time to start. As Liz Gilbert says, who wrote Big Magic, creativity is the cherry on top of life, and it's what we get for surviving. So what's the point of all this work, all this survival, all of this rising to the next level if we can't enjoy and indulge in a little bit of creativity and a little bit of craftsmanship and learn the rest of your life? Learn a new language, learn how to row a boat, learn how to do anything and everything. That's why we're here. That's why we're on this planet. So thank you so much for tuning in. If you have stuck it out to the end, I commend you, and I hope this was helpful. I am offering a very special birthday package this month. I'm offering 27% off my 6-month package. So if you've been following me for a while and you've been curious about what my program looks like, please feel free to send me the word or the number 27 to book a free call with me so I can tell you about it. And if you book it before Friday, you will be eligible for that 27% off of my 6-month package, as long as you book it by Friday. So I hope you guys enjoyed this so much. Thank you so much for sticking around, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye, guys.